Picture this. You walk into an auction expecting to see Ferraris, Lamborghinis, or maybe a Bugatti, but suddenly a 1970 Dodge Charger Daytona breaks all records and sells for over $3 million. Yes, you heard that right. An old American car, with angular lines and a huge rear wing, costs more than many luxury homes in the United States. But how is that possible? What is it about these muscle cars from the 70s that turns them into million-dollar objects of desire? Why are vehicle models that were once considered common, everyday cars, and even quite loud, now regarded as highly prized collectible works of art? And more importantly, are we looking at a passing fad or an investment as serious as real estate? In this video, we're going to explore the past, the nostalgia, the design, the rarity, and the passion behind these cars that roar like legends and are now worth much more than an average house. Stick around, because what you're about to discover will make you see muscle cars in a whole new light. Have you ever pondered how a car that's over half a century old, devoid of modern technology, without screens or driving assists, can command a price higher than a house boasting a pool, a garden, and a double garage? The answer isn't as straightforward as it might appear, but let's begin with a fact that will blow your mind. Back in January of 2024, a 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible was successfully auctioned off, fetching more than $4 million. To put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of buying a luxury home in Miami, a cabin in the mountains, and still having enough left over for a new Tesla. And what was so special about that car? In the world of collectors, it was a gem. Fewer than 30 units were produced in that specific configuration. This phenomenon has led to models such as the 1970 Dodge Charger Daytona, which was once considered a rebellious car with an extravagant design, now selling for between $1 and $3 million. But the mystery doesn't end there. It's not simply about the price. What makes these cars worth more than a house is a combination of factors: rarity, history, generational passion, and of course, the economy of desire. Besides, there's something deeply symbolic about these cars. They are remnants of an era where design was aggressive, sound was everything, and gasoline was not measured in efficiency, but in emotion. They were machines built to impress, not to save. And in a world where everything leans towards silent efficiency, these cars represent a kind of nostalgic rebellion. And that, dear viewer, costs a lot of money. A run-of-the-mill Plymouth Barracuda is not the same as a 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible. What's the difference, you ask? That Hemi 426 engine, a V8 that roared like a dragon, and its production was limited to fewer than 30 units across the entire world. And each one is a piece of living history. The same can be said for the legendary 1970 Dodge Charger Daytona. At first glance, it just looks like a Charger with a giant rear spoiler and a pointy nose. However, it was actually a mass-produced NASCAR aerodynamic experiment, specifically crafted to fulfill homologation regulations. Roughly 500 units were manufactured, with some being wrecked in races. The rest vanished over time. Today, an original Daytona, featuring either a 440 or Hemi engine and maintained in impeccable condition, is exceptionally rare to locate and virtually impossible to replace. And speaking of rarity with a purpose, the Ford Mustang Boss 429 also makes this list. This specific model was engineered by Ford, purely to introduce their 429 engine into the demanding NASCAR competitions. Only around 1,300 units were ever manufactured, making it a limited edition out of necessity, and for that exact reason, it's highly coveted in the present day. Each of these cars not only symbolizes a golden age of sheer power and youthful rebellion, but was manufactured in such limited quantities that, with the passage of time, their value appreciates significantly, much like a thriving stock on the rise. So it's not that all muscle cars are valuable, only a few. The right ones, the original ones, the scarce ones, the legendary ones. Imagine a man about 65 years old. He's thriving, with a successful career, adult children, and financial stability, but in his youth, there was one thing he could never acquire: a red Chevelle SS 454 with black stripes, just like the one he saw driving by his school at 17. Today, decades on, he can indulge. But he's not just buying a car, he's buying a tangible version of his youth. Nostalgia is one of the most powerful factors in the market, and in the case of muscle cars, it has found its perfect moment. Baby boomers, born between the 1940s and the mid-1960s, are now at a life stage where they finally possess the financial means they lacked when they first dreamt of owning these cars, and many are not hesitating to make the purchase. If they find the exact model, the exact color, even the factory radio they remember, they buy it. And as if that weren't enough, these cars have been immortalized in movies, TV series, commercials, and even video games. The Charger from Fast and Furious, the Mustang from Bullitt, the Trans Am from Smokey, and the Bandit. All those vehicles planted a seed in the minds of millions of young individuals who are now adults with black cards. But nostalgia isn't just for boomers. There's also a younger generation, the children and grandchildren of those who lived through that period. They view these vehicles as legendary relics, and this has sparked a new wave of fans who continue to drive up demand. In other words, nostalgia is not dying. It is being inherited. There's a very particular moment that people experience when they see a muscle car from the 70s for the first time. It's more than just admiration. It's a blend of respect, awe, and a touch of fear. Because those cars aren't just powerful in appearance, they truly are, and they exude that confidence. Their design is a crucial element of their current worth, especially since most modern cars today share similar smooth aerodynamic curves and technologies. Of silent efficiency, a Buick GSX or a Ford Mustang Boss 429 look like untamable beasts straight out of another dimension. It's not just a matter of design, there's also historical value. These automobiles emerged from a very particular era in the United States, a period defined by inexpensive gasoline, minimal environmental regulations, and automotive brands vying to see whose engines could thunder the loudest. A 1970 Camaro Z28 or a Roadrunner Superbird don't merely narrate a mechanical history, they profoundly encapsulate a cultural narrative. And when you add professional restoration, where every detail is meticulously rebuilt to bring the car back to its original glory, the end result is a finished product that can genuinely compete with a classic Ferrari or a collectible Aston Martin without any exaggeration. By now, you've probably noticed, the muscle cars of the 70s aren't just about passion, history, and beauty. They're also business, and a very lucrative business. In the last 20 years, a new figure has emerged in this world, the automotive investor. They buy muscle cars with the same criteria as someone who invests in real estate or contemporary art, looking for profitability, and boy, has there been any. Models such as the Chevelle SS 454 LS6, which in the 90s were valued at merely $20,000, are now selling for more than $250,000 if fully restored and in truly impeccable conditions. The secret's in three elements: growing demand, limited supply, and preservation. The more original the vehicle is, the greater its market value will be. And just like with art, professional restoration also plays a key role. A good restoration can take a car that was worth $100,000 and make it sell for $300,000. But here's the big question: is this sustainable or a bubble? Some experts believe that we are currently experiencing a phase quite similar to the art market boom of the 1980s, and that the market could adjust sooner or later. Others, though, contend this is a more solid investment than it initially appears. Unlike passing fads, 1970s muscle cars are backed by history, rarity, and a global market that covets them. But, as with any investment, there are risks. Not all muscle cars go up in price. Indeed, many common or improperly modified models have actually lost significant value. That's why today, in certain collecting circles, owning an original Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible or a Ford Mustang Boss 429 is not just having an exclusive object. You have an asset that gains value over time. A house is where you live, create memories, raise kids, share family dinners, and find shelter. It is the ultimate symbol of stability and heritage in the lives of millions of people. Now imagine all of that is worth less than a classic muscle car from the 70s. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's a reality that is happening right now. In the United States, the average value of a home is typically between $200,000 and $400,000, depending on the state. In many small towns, you can buy a decent house for less than $250,000. But now, let's return to our protagonists. Just recently, a 1970 Dodge Charger Daytona was successfully sold for $3 million. A Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible has fetched prices reaching as high as $4.8 million. Even less exclusive models, like a well-restored Ford Mustang Boss 302 or a Buick GSX, can exceed $150,000 at auction and continue to climb. Do you grasp the contrast? Yet, there's something even more captivating to consider. Houses lose value if you don't maintain them, if you don't make repairs, if the neighborhood declines. On the other hand, a well-maintained muscle car can double its value in less than a decade, if it's rare, original, and in perfect condition. For many, the logic behind these prices is absurd. But for collectors, it makes perfect sense. They aren't buying an old car, they're buying a legend. Perhaps not everyone can afford one of these cars, but their representation, the passion, history, aesthetics, and freedom serves as a powerful reminder that the most valuable things in life aren't always necessities for existence, but rather what ignites our sense of aliveness.